What does it take to go from managing the office to leading and developing people? Our guest today has risen to the challenge of stepping out from behind the desk and diving feet first into the trenches of managing a team, all while adding cows, growing from 30 to 50 employees, and leading efforts to achieve excellent milk quality. In this episode of the Uplevel Dairy Podcast, I sit down with Danielle Ware, longtime team member of Shiloh Dairy in Brillion, Wisconsin, which is owned by Travis Spears and Gordon and Kathy Spears. You'll hear her story of resilience and the incredible leadership lessons learned through building people, driving culture, and demanding excellence. That and more right here today on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. This episode is sponsored by Uplevel Dairy Podcast founding partner Adiseo, a global leader in nutrition solutions and premier provider of rumen-protected methionine for dairy producers who want to optimize milk production, capture more value from components, and maintain the health of their high-performing herds. Feed is the greatest expense on any dairy operation, and don't you want to know how an adjustment to the ration will affect your bottom line? Adiseo empowers nutritionists to make informed ration balancing decisions with MilkPay.com. Customizable to your dairy's own data, this profitability calculator puts the power of real-time milk market information in the palm of your hand. Find out how much your latest ration change is really costing you with the free MilkPay app available on iOS and through MilkPay.com. You have been on my radar to have a conversation with for a while, in part because I think it was about 2 years ago, I interviewed Travis.
Yep, probably, yeah.
Yes, and I remember him talking about what an incredible asset you've been here at Shiloh. Well, then about a month ago, I was interviewing Elsie Gonzalez Leach, and I asked her about who are the people that motivate you, inspire you, that you look up to. And she talked about you, Danielle.
Oh.
And just the heart that you have, but also the ability that you have to manage people and to be able to see not just where they are today, but where they can be, and how that has been such a key to the success here at Shiloh Dairy. That is why I thought now is the time to reach out with having had that conversation with Elsie. And so that's what we get to do today is follow up on that with you. So thanks for letting me come out and sit down with you today.
Thank you. I'm honored.
So Danielle, you have been at Shiloh for a chunk of time now, but actually your history here is even longer than that. So what's been that path of kind of how you started out here at Shiloh and also how that's led to where you're at today?
So I kind of just posted my anniversary on Facebook, and I kind of summed it up good. Living in Door County, had my own farm, and I said God seen that we needed a change. And we got a phone call saying a couple was moving from Canada 22 years ago. I was a month away from having my second daughter. Long story short, within 20 days, we sold our farm, our cows, rented out our house, and moved here, and had a baby. So I started as their parlor employee manager. We started with one employee and worked our way up to 12 at the time. The first 3 years of Shiloh Dairy, I ran their parlor and employees.
So that was right when Gordon and Kathy Spears and their family were relocating here. Fresh start.
Extremely stressful time for their family.
Yeah,
so we go to a different country.
They were making a big move.
Mm.
You were making a big move at a busy time in your personal life with a little one coming along.
And one at home.
And so you were here for a couple of years and then went out into industry for a while as well.
Yeah, worked for Bomatic and De La Valve, another big farm. And then 10 years ago, came back to Shiloh. And actually, I was working at the newspaper down the road, and I was delivering envelopes. And Gordon asked if I would ever be willing to come back. And I said, well, Travis is your herdsman, and he's like, no, I need you for OSHA and DNR. So they had their first OSHA audit ever, and needed someone to take on the OSHA and the paperwork and the billing. And so I said, absolutely, I'll come back. Just know my girl's stuff comes first. And they said, absolutely. And so I started 10 years ago back in the office.
In the office there, as you said, you were working on OSHA, DNR. I might add to that list that you've also taken on the decorations and aesthetics of this place, because this is one of those dairies you walk into and you can tell there's a special touch and a special detail, from the flowers out front to the decorated foyer. But that time in the office actually led you to now having a totally different role today, right?
Yeah. So I did all the stuff for the employees, if they needed boots, all their paperwork, all that type of stuff. So I stayed connected with all the team members. But then there were some struggles in the parlor. And we always joke that I had to beg for my old job back, but I literally did. I went into Gordon and Travis several times. And I would say, just let me run the parlor. Just let me run the parlor. And they kept saying, well, your kids are kind of young yet. Do you really want that many hours? And I'm like, just let me run your parlor. We joke, but I always say I had to beg for the job. Some days I wish I wouldn't have begged for the job. So long story short, 3 years ago, they said, the parlor's yours. And they've, from that day on, have handed me over the parlor. And Somatic Cell was running about 230,000 at that time. We're down to about 70,000 today. And that's in the midst of a huge expansion on the manure system, going to a digested fibers, adding 500 cows, adding a barn. It's been a rough 3 years. A lot of hard work went into the last 3 years. A lot of change went into the last 3 years.
You just touched on the milk quality side and some major things that happened there, some improvements, and we'll dig in a little bit more to that in a second as well. But your role became people.
A lot of people, yeah. So we're at 54 full-time employees because we raise our calves, heifers, we have everything on site. We do have a couple hundred animals in Nebraska, but mainly everything is on site. So yes, I run the parlor, the calves, the maternity, heifers, and also 54 employees. I love the cows, but I love the people. I love our team. We've taken great pride in the culture and building. I love when we can, save a cow or fix a cow or, a cow that's sick. But I love watching people grow.
And, when you talk about that, you have that heart for the cow and for goals and benchmarks, but it's really the people that drive you, isn't it?
It is. And it's the little things. I always keep telling them it's the little things. We focus a lot on respect, but it's, I do all the reviews. So bringing in girls that, have never milked a cow before, or just hearing their stories. And we think we have it so tough. In the United States, we don't know anything compared to what they've seen and gone through. And just, I'm always one of those, I like the underdog story, right? In sports and everything, I like the team that's not supposed to win, but ends up winning. I'm always for the underdog, I guess. So the people are what drive me, because without all of them, we can't have a Shiloh Dairy, right? I mean, we have Gordon and Travis and Kathy, but without everybody working, all of our employees working, we can't help the cows.
And you touched on culture. How would you describe culture here today?
My thing is just respect. And we put as much training into people as we do in them with cows. So I feel if we can build good people, we will have a good team, and in return, that will make us good cows and good outcome. If we can build up the person as a good person, and they may, right, we've all made mistakes in our life, so they may have not had the best past, but if we can make them start over today and become a good person and learn respect and trust, and that's going to show in how they take care for the animals. So like I said, we put just as much effort into training on the cow side of things, but on the people side of things.
So when you think about that and you look at especially these last few years, from when you stepped out of the office and into the trenches, literally into the trenches, what has been one of the biggest challenges that you faced in doing exactly what you said? That's creating that culture, a culture built on respect, and building teams around that.
I would say gaining respect from the team, right? So they call me the boot girl, right? So I would order boots if they needed boots. I would, get them blankets if they needed blankets. So going out there, with, my boots on, and I'm the one, I do all the hospital treatments, working with any of the sick cows, working with the calves, just gaining their respect by, I'm out there with them every day. I'm doing the work with them, showing them. So it was kind of them learning that, oh, she's more than just a face in the office, right? I mean, I don't think any of them knew that I own my own farm. I worked for an equipment company, I've ran big farms. So just getting them to know who I was, and then finding my team, finding the vendors that we needed, the people that I'm going to go to. So finding my people, and then having them, as Gordon would say, drink the Shiloh Dairy Kool-Aid, that these are our protocols. This is the way we do it. There's one way to do it. We don't do it any other way.
So you've essentially built two teams, an internal team.
Yep.
And a support team.
Absolutely.
And it really defined kind of that values, the who we are, the what we do, the why we do it.
Yep.
And so I want to go back to that part that you talked about of becoming, going from being the boot girl, the person that took care of the supplies, to now being in the parlor and managing people.
Yep.
So what was that transition like for you?
Oh, wow. Very hard. I guess just relearning everything, right? I mean, so I've been around cows my entire life. I went to college for that. I've, been on a farm my entire life, and being away from it for so many years, getting to know the medications, the protocols, the vendors. I knew them from the invoices they would send, but just the different approaches people take on animals nowadays. Just, I guess, relearning and re-implementing what I had already known. And then, again, just sharing it with everybody here. And I think our biggest thing was getting the protocols in place. And we are very protocol driven. There's one way to milk cows here. There's one way to calve a cow here. There's one way to feed a calf here. And there's no negotiating that. This is the way we do things. We have professionals that have helped us build these protocols. And we always say when a person comes in, oh, I milked here and here. I'm like, okay, great. But forget all that. Now you're going to learn the Shiloh way. We milk cow this certain way.
So you knew what you wanted to communicate to the team. You knew what those protocols and standards needed to be to get the results that Shiloh Dairy wanted and would be known for. But there's the gap in between, the buy-in, and you coming in as a familiar face in a new role. And so how did you get the support and just that mindset shift of getting the team to understand that, like, you're the one that's
I'm the boss.
You're the boss. Yes, you're the boss lady. Like, you're the one that's holding them accountable.
Yeah.
You are the one that is taking responsibility for them.
Yeah.
Like, what was that process like? That buy-in process of you as the manager and as that leader?
I think to me, everybody should be treated equal, right? So if you treat a person with respect, and if you want to say dignity, and you get to know them. So my big thing is getting to know every employee. I want to know their name. I want to know where they came from. I want to know their story, right? And I tell them my story. They may not think I have this hard life either, but the big thing is I've tried really hard to get to know everybody. So we get to know if they have family issues. We want to know about them. If they're not feeling good that day, okay, let us know. I'm not saying you can use that as a excuse, but so my thing was just going in and getting to know, and honestly, it was, I'll give you a hug and I'll be super nice to you, but if you're not going to follow the rules, you're going to be told. So it's holding them accountable, but also the big thing is treating them as a human being, right? I mean, they just want to be treated with respect. So I guess just naturally, I try to treat everybody with respect and treat them equally and don't judge people. And I'm not perfect at that by any means, but I guess I hold so much like respect for them for how hard they work. I mean, these aren't easy jobs. We all know that, right? Milking in the parlor for 8, 10, 12 hours. Some of these guys, 16 hours if, we have issues. These are hard jobs that they're doing, and it's important that they're doing them. But I think just going in there with respect, but then also going in there with they know that if they cross the line, they're going to get reprimanded. So I guess going in there nice, but yet with a hard hand, if you want to say.
Yeah.
And finding that balance, right? But they also know, look, I love you. I'll give you a hug. You're here, but also, you know the rules. And we try very hard to set out. That's why we're so protocol driven. So then there isn't questions. I will listen to them on stuff, but we have professionals that tell us, these are the protocols to do. This is what we should do. And we're not perfect, but they're working. I mean, we're succeeding. We're headed in the right direction.
And there's a lot of clarity around here of what's expected, isn't there?
A lot.
And here's an example. I remember being out here at the dairy, maybe a year or two ago, and on a tour, I was bringing a tour group out here, and we were over by, I don't know, maybe someplace where you change out skid steer buckets, and it was like a designated signage, right? Like this is where this bucket goes. Yep. This is where this bucket goes. And it just spoke to that clarity.
Yep.
And when you talk about protocols and expectations, that's the impression that I gained that day was you're being as clear as possible so that people know what's expected of them. And then you're backing that up by saying, okay, you either are on board or you're not. And you said something earlier, Danielle, when you look at people, like you are looking for good people, like good in their heart, good in their core, so that they can be a good team member. Is that something where you just have a good read on that? Or do you kind of have a trial period for new employees to see how they fit in with culture and if they are willing to and able to have that respect as their number one value? How does it look for you in real time?
I consider myself a pretty humble person, but I would say probably one of my best skills is reading people. I'm pretty good at reading somebody on, how they kind of handle themselves, how they talk, the questions they ask, where they park when they come and ask for a job. If they're parking in the manager spot that has a clear sign that says, owner, manager parking, and they're parking there, I won't hire somebody that does that. That shows me they have no respect. And I'm not perfect with that. I mean, there's been a couple of employees where I'm like, oh, I don't think this employee is going to make it. And, after a little while, they turn around and they actually, one of our biggest success stories is, supervising our calf team right now. I wouldn't have thought 3 years later he would still be here, but he changed himself around, changed his personality around. I think I have a good sense of reading people. We hire a lot from within. So we ask first if anybody else has, brother or sister, aunt, uncle, doesn't matter. We ask. So we try and hire from within. And so then we kind of hold that person accountable. And you can't blame them if it doesn't work out either, right? And sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes you think, wow, this is going to be an amazing person. And a week later, you're like, they either stop showing up or, I'm sorry, this just isn't working out. It's just not, and right, it doesn't mean we failed or they failed. It's just, we're not the right farm for them. We're not the right fit for any, and it could be anywhere, right? So you go to any job and sometimes it's just not the right fit. And we don't take that as a loss or for them as a bad thing. It's just, we're not the right fit.
So when you recognize that someone's not a right fit, and it sounds like you have a pretty good gut instinct for that, especially after a period of time.
After a long
time. Yeah, to give people that chance you give them the chance to prove themselves, right? You give them the chance to do the right thing. And if that's not happening, how long do you wait to make that call? Is it a fast cut?
It's a fast cut, yeah.
And how important is that?
So I think we've learned over the years that, nobody wants to let somebody go, right? No, because you feel like a failure on both parts. But I think we've learned at Shiloh Dairy, our philosophy is, cut hard and cut fast. If it's not working out, it's not right for them or for us. And every farm knows, every company knows how expensive training a person is. So you can put a month, 2 months into somebody. That's a lot of money when you know it's not going to work out in the end. And it's not fair for them either. So we probably give them, depending what position, so we try and insert everybody in the parlor. I'm very big into growing within and like earning your position. And probably because I had to do it myself, right? I didn't get to just walk in and become the manager. I've had to be the parlor manager. I've had to be the office girl. I've had to be in the scale house. Pretty much every position here I've had to do. So just earning your spot, I guess, would be the thing. But we feel it's just not fair to us or to them. So I would say we probably give them a week in the parlor. And so after the first day, we sit down with them, ask them how it's going, how they feel. And then at the end of the first week, we also bring them in and sit down with them and just kind of get their perspective. I will tell them what we see. And then I also talk to that shift supervisor will be in the meeting as well. And they'll tell them the good and the bad of things. And some at that meeting are like, this just isn't working out, or, we'll try and make that decision at that week mark. We're not saying they have to be up to speed by somebody who's been here for 3 years, right? But we have to see potential in them.
Yeah. And cut hard, cut fast.
It sounds brutal, but I don't know if you could ask any company if, how expensive training is, if they wouldn't think it's a lot of money to train a person. And then to have to retrain, right? So it's not just, okay, if you let them here a month and they don't work out, now we've just paid them a month and the supervisor a month, and now we got to pay somebody again to train, right? And that position still isn't filled. So it may sound mean, but yeah, our philosophy is kind of cut hard, cut fast.
Yeah, it's strict.
And we are. I mean, we are. I will admit that, we love everybody here, but there's one way to do things, and that's just, we're very protocol driven, very rule driven. That's just, I guess, how I like things ran.
And yet, there's the hard hand for right and wrong, but there's a really big heart behind that hand, isn't there?
We try very hard. When it's hot, our employees have ice cream. They have Gatorade. When it's cold, they're getting, hot meals. They're getting soup. They're getting hot dogs. They're getting hamburgers. Every holiday, they get gifts for, even if it's a Surgy candy bar. So they're year anniversaries. So we do a 2, a 6, and a 1 year small gift. And then on their 5, 10 year, we try and do that. We bring in the food truck a couple times a year. And it's not just about buying them stuff, but we try and, we bring them in for 3 times a year. We bring them in for reviews, and just, I don't even want to consider them reviews anymore. I want to consider them like just meetings, right? They have a half hour of mine and Liz's time, or mine and Elsie's time. So professional translator comes in, somebody not on our day-to-day team. So we feel that lets them express themselves more. So if they're having an issue with another employee, if they're having an issue with, anything on the farm, I feel like they could be more open than if it's just somebody on the farm translating. So that's why we leave all that to Elsie and Liz. So we have a sit down and they can talk to us about any work or anything they need. And most of the time it becomes personal, and a lot of times tears are shed from me, Liz, and the team member, because they're away from their families. A lot of them are away from their kids. We try very hard to understand they're humans that are away. I could never do it. I could never move to a different country and leave my 3 daughters behind. I give them so much credit, so much respect for what they do.
So when you talk about respect being so core to the culture here, it's mutual. It's not a top-down thing. It is a both ways. It's a two-way street. And you mentioned Elsie and Liz, Motiva Consulting.
Yep.
Right? They're coming in and having these conversations because from what you're sharing, Danielle, it's part of your belief in developing people.
I love watching people grow and watching the unexpected person that I would have never thought, or just you hear their stories and you want them to succeed. You want them to be better, because even if they don't stay here forever, which they're not going to, right? But I'm hoping when they leave here that their life is better because of us. And especially for me, for women, right? I want these women to walk out of here being strong, not being afraid, not being, that they can do stuff. They can do whatever they want. And women or men, but it's important to me, I guess, with having 3 daughters. That's what I've always said to them. I mean, I want my daughters to stand on their own 2 feet. I want them to be strong. I want them, as I always say, be better than what I was, right? I want them to have an easier, better life than I had. But I want the same for every team member here.
Are there any that really stand out in your mind that you would call your success? And when I say success, That can mean a lot of different things, right? Professionally, personally. We're not just talking about in the parlor.
Yeah.
What are some examples that really stand out in your mind of people that you've watched grow and do exactly what you're saying? And that's be better for themselves and their future because of what they've been able to gain and grow with here.
Oh, goodness, there's a lot of them. I would say there's a girl in the parlor right now. She's been with us about a year and a half. The day she walked in, she had never touched an animal in her life. Came from a very abusive situation in her country, left her children behind, came here. She walked in, and after the first day, she cried and said she couldn't do it. It was too hard. And I looked at her and I gave her a huge hug and I said, no, you're going to do this. You're not quitting. You're staying. You're going to do this. We actually just had an audit from GIA, and she was our top performing milker on the team. She's tough. She's tough now. It's taken a long time, but she has found a new life here and just completely different demeanor and attitude. And I mean, she was scared of anything before, and that she couldn't do it. She wasn't strong enough. She wasn't good enough. And I mean, if you would go in our parlor now and watch first shift milking, she would stick out like a sore thumb because she is one of our best milkers we have. We have another guy that started in the parlor, was a good milker, but just made some bad personal choices. And it took us a while. And he just said, that's what I was raised with. That's what I learned as a kid. That's how I've always acted. And I said, but you don't act that way here. And explaining to him why. Right. So what are the reprimands in life going to be if you keep going down this road? Not only so much here, but in life in general, in America, in any life. 3 years later, he's our calf supervisor. I mean, he is the reason we don't lose calves around here. He's the reason why we are so successful with our calves, with our baby calves. I mean, you want to talk about just heart and soul. We had a guy, he's no longer he went home because he wanted to get married. But he came, never touched a cow or anything. And same thing, he didn't want to get any manure on him or anything. And I'm like, well, you got to get manure on you if you're going to, you're going to milk. Let's go. Let's get dirty. I kind of made him get dirty the first day and he was mad. Anyways, a year later, he was our parlor supervisor for first shift for 2.5 years and trained every single person that came through that parlor for 2.5 years. And a lot of them are still here. And you would have never guessed the first day, how he was a wimp. He was just a wimp.
You had to toughen him up.
We had to toughen him up. And when I said to Travis, I said, I'm going to put Oliver and kind of gave me the look. And I said, well, it's either going to make or break him, right? I mean, he's either going to learn to be a leader and be tough, or we're going to find out he can't be tough. And him and I messaged back and forth probably 2-3 times a week. But it's just those type of stories that's my motivation that keeps me going and gets, and we're not successful with all of them. We've already put people in positions I thought they would work out. Okay, they're doing really well in the parlor. Let's move them to calving pen. Let's move them to a cow mover. And it doesn't work out so well. They can't handle the supervisor role. They can't handle more pressure or more responsibility, and then, okay, and we have a lot of guys that come in for the reviews. And, one of the questions is, okay, where do you see yourself in 6 months? One of our questions, where do you see yourself in 6 months? And the other question is, what do you want to celebrate from the first 2 months or 6 months or a year? Those are two of our questions that we ask. And I want to be in the parlor. And that's great, right? Because I need people to want to just be in the parlor. So we have guys that have been in the parlor for 3 or 4 years that don't want to go anywhere, don't want to, move to a different spot, which is great because we need that, right?
Yes.
We can't have everybody brand new in the parlor. So then they may not be a supervisor, but we also say, okay, look, you're a lead milker. You got to show them when the supervisor's not in there, if they're giving somebody a break or whatever. Now it's time for you to step up.
So you really reinforce the expectation and hold people to a high level, don't you?
Yes.
You just heard from Danielle Ware of Shiloh Dairy here on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast. There'll be more to come in a future episode with Danielle, but I hope you enjoyed this conversation and took a few notes on what it's like to build a team, to develop a culture, and to expect excellence of the people that are around you. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and until next time, keep on growing, keep on learning, and up-leveling your dairy. This episode is sponsored by Uplevel Dairy Podcast founding partner Adiseo, a global leader in nutrition solutions and premier provider of rumen-protected methionine for dairy producers who want to optimize milk production, capture more value from components, and maintain the health of their high-performing herds. Feed is the greatest expense on any dairy operation, and don't you want to know how an adjustment to the ration will affect your bottom line? Adiseo empowers nutritionists to make informed ration balancing decisions with MilkPay.com. Customizable to your dairy's own data, this profitability calculator puts the power of real-time milk market information in the palm of your hand. Find out how much your latest ration change is really costing you with the free MilkPay app available on iOS and through MilkPay.com.